California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger welcomes a debate on making marijuana legal, but he's not quite endorsing it. He's asking for a study of what would happen if California were to legalize toking up on the old peace pipe. Now, that's how politicians move into a radioactive area. You commission a study. Remember the good old days when Arnold was pumping iron? Didn't seem like he was ambivalent on the pot issue back then. See here, he definitely seems to be inhaling. Rob Kampia is the executive director of the Marijuana Policy Project. Dr. Kevin Sabet is a former drug policy advisor to Presidents Clinton and George W. Bush. Rob, first question to you. 100 million Americans have smoked dope. Not a single death, I don't think. And now medical marijuana is gaining in California, a few other places. Has pot's time at long last finally come?
Yeah, I think so. You know, we've seen in public opinion polling that for the first time in our nation's history, a majority of Americans actually want to see marijuana taxed and regulated rather than prohibited. And I think that's just a simple function of the fact that marijuana has been prohibited in this country since 1937. So after 72 years of this endless war on our own citizens and not preventing anyone from using marijuana, it's time for a new approach.
Kevin, the question is, though, should we legalize yet another mind-altering substance and advertise it on billboards? Won't that attract children the way beer ads do?
Well, it certainly will. I mean, legalization does not pass the giggle test, even in these harsh economic times. We can actually look at other places that have tried legalization. We can look at the Netherlands that openly markets and commercializes the drug. We've seen a threefold increase in lifetime use for young adults using marijuana since it's been heavily commercialized and legalized.
Yeah, but at the same time, Rob, I'm pretty sure that in Amsterdam, where you can go into a coffee shop and buy marijuana cigarettes that are rolled professionally and they're in color packages, in Amsterdam, the incidence of pot usage among teenagers is lower than in America, where it's illegal.
That's exactly right. I mean, the usage rates amongst teenagers in Holland is literally half that of the usage rates in the U.S. And that's according to the federal government's own data.
Rob is right. Rob is right.
With alcohol and with cigarettes.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Rob is right about the usage
tobacco,
rates, but you would actually never.
The first time in our nation's history is that fewer teenagers are using tobacco than marijuana, and the reason for that is that the We Card program for tobacco is actually keeping it out of the hands of many, but not all teenagers.
Okay,
whereas with
marijuana,
you're neglecting 2 points, Rob.
Any teenager who wants it could easily
Rob, let Kevin speak, please.
In the hallways of their high school. So it clearly makes sense to regulate
Rob's IFB must not be working. Can you please turn off his mic so Kevin can get a word in?
Sure. Unfortunately, Rob is mistaken in 2 points here. First is in the Netherlands, they've always had lower uses of all drugs than the United States. It's very difficult to compare a tiny country like the Netherlands to the U.S.
No,
you can actually look inside.
It's percentage of users, Kevin.
Yeah, no, you can look inside the Netherlands, and actually what you saw since legalization is a threefold increase in use, whereas in the United States, actually, use dropped 25% over the last 8 years in youth use of marijuana. Rob also brought up tobacco and alcohol. We look at our two legal drugs and how they are taxed, commercialized, and promoted. We see their use far outweighs that of marijuana and their costs. I mean, tobacco kills 500,000 people a year. Alcohol, 100,000 people a year.
And tobacco kills and tobacco's legal. Kevin,
Kevin, we get about. Let me just finish this point.
Filibuster. I need to ask you a couple things. Think about this, Kevin. Almost 900,000 arrests every year for pot. That is more than all violent crimes combined. 90% of those arrests are for smoking a doobie.
But Dennis,
almost half of the DEA budget of $2 billion a year is spent on pot. Kevin, at some point, when will you admit the war on pot has not worked and you're wasting money when you could be earning money?
Unfortunately, you're distorting those statistics. I agree that over almost 1 million people a year have been arrested for marijuana, but look further into that. What happens to those arrests? 95% of those people are let off with nothing more than a parking ticket. These are not people that are filling our prisons and jails.
Bother?
In fact, an independent RAND study showed that between 800 and 2,300 people a year are in prison, federal prison, for smoking marijuana. People are not filling our jails and prisons. If they were, we would see far more people incarcerated than we do right now
for simple smoking.
But actually, if you look at taxes, you're saying this might be a good tax revenue. Let's look at alcohol. We get about $10 billion a year from our alcohol revenue. We spend almost $180 billion in lost social costs. Of course, use will go up when we legalize and promote a substance.
And alcohol is legal. You're defeating your own argument, my friend.
Why would we add a third legal drug to that list? That list of killers. Alcohol provides enough.
Because other approaches haven't worked at all, and because this drug actually is used for medicine now.
But what do you mean by haven't worked?
Wait a minute.
We saw a 25% decrease in marijuana use.
100 million people. people have smoked pot.
The difference
14 million
between
in a
Most
given
of them
month.
were in the heyday of the
Marijuana doesn't
60s and
kill.
70s. They tried it once and they stopped. If you want to look at regular use, Dennis, 5% of Americans regularly use marijuana. Now, that means once in the last 30 days, according to the best studies we have, 30% tobacco, 80% alcohol. So it actually doesn't compare at all when you look at our two legal drugs.
But that's a reason to go ahead and decriminalize it. Go ahead, Rob.
Absolutely not.
Go ahead, Rob.
We have two legal
Please.
drugs that cause enough problems.
Kevin,
Look,
please let Rob speak.
We can make a couple of comparisons with alcohol. First, we saw that alcohol prohibition did not work, and our country then decided to regulate rather than prohibit, because there was a lot of problems with alcohol prohibition, including violence, such as what we're seeing across the border
and drug
in
prohibition
Mexico.
at all.
Actually, he can do almost anything he wants, but what I have to do, gentlemen, is wrap. Okay, so Rob and Kevin, thanks very much.
Thanks, Dennis.
Nice to have a debate that we've been having for 30 years. Next.